Alright then, watch us sweethearts. In today's video I'll be opening in a very broadly affected faux British accent because I've spent all morning dicking around in Watch Dogs Legion. I got me an early code I have, but if you want to know my first impressions of the game I put a video up about it a couple of days ago, so you can go watch that. But today my Twinkie Dates is just serving as a background for what I want to have a bit of a chinwag about. Hello again, I am Blunty, and this is what I normally sound like. Go ahead and leave a comment about my terrible English accent blend. I'm not exactly sure what I was trying to go for there, it kind of drifted a bit. But do make sure you're subbed and thumbed and belled while you're down there, I do appreciate that. If you leave me to the mercy of the YouTube algorithm monster and don't do any of that, I just may be forced to do all of my videos in a terrible fake accent. Or possibly never do any of my videos ever again in a terrible fake accent, whichever one you find most displeasurable and or funny. Anyway, I'm sure it's escaped the notice of very few people this morning, but CD Projekt Red announced yet another delay to Cyberpunk 2077's release. And frankly, I've been disappointed but perfectly happy with the previous fistful of delay announcements. We have far too many games that launch to a marketing date rather than when they're good and ready and a solid enough state for a good day one experience for the early buyers. Full disclosure here, by the way, before we continue, I was recently emailed by Bandai Namco Australia, who are handling the Australian distribution of Cyberpunk 27, and was offered up a review code for launch day. I said yes, and I plan on making content and running streams of the game, and despite the critical tone of this video in general, which if Bandai Namco are anything like the petty people at companies like Sony, for example, might mean I get denied that code later. I'm hoping they're rather more generous than that. If the Bamco chaps are watching, I urge you, as I do everyone else, to hear me out completely before throwing me under the bus. Fair go, governor! So, publishers rely far too heavily on fixing their games after launch, really screwing over their most eager customers in the process. This is no secret. It's basically standard practice these days, and as an old school gamer it rubs me the wrong way a bit. On the one hand, those day one patches are super annoying and stalled out the hype on launch day while we wait for the damn things to download and install, even when we've supposedly already pre-installed the damn game. On the other hand, back when I were a lad, if a game shipped with bugs on the cartridge or disc, it stayed buggy. So I do appreciate this habitual patch feed gaming style too. But this delay, this is something different. This delay comes just 20 days after we were told the game has gone gold. For those of you not deeply familiar with the parlance of the industry, a game going gold means, or at least used to mean, or supposed to mean, until today, that a game was ready for customer consumption. It was finished. Development had produced a fully functional, fully complete, stable game. It has been approved after final testing has been passed for the production of physical copies and then to ship to retailers to be sold. Going gold means it's passed all certification from the various platform holders as a game that is fully functional, fully complete, and ready to be sold as is. But today, Cyberpunk 2077's creators, CD Projekt Red, have rendered that term as pointless and completely meaningless as beta or even alpha have become in the gaming industry. Once upon a time, a game alpha was a barely functioning prototype of a game. It has the basic functionality, maybe some test levels. It was basically just the next step up from a proof of concept. Games in alpha stage would have never, ever been shown off to the public. Well, barely shown off to the investors. They were so not ready for people to see. These days, so-called alphas are little more than excuses to get players to do some free playtesting for them, a job people are usually paid to do, by the way. And betas, once an internal test platform, where functionally working but still feature and content incomplete games would undergo significant playtesting and continue to evolve and be developed and perhaps on occasion be exposed to game journalists for early previews. These days, it's basically just a demo, and usually used as a marketing tool, bait to get people to pay for a game before it's even ready to be sold for the privilege of playing a demo. Back in my day, demos were free. They came on the front of magazine covers. And yet more developers release their game to the wide public in so-called beta, or sometimes they like to call it early access stages, under the guise of getting player feedback. But in function, it's a way to suck money from people with a product that is known to still be broken, still incomplete. But going gold, being gold master ready, still meant something. Even when alpha and beta and early access were basically meaningless marketing terms, Gold Master still meant something. Even in this day and age of day zero patches, where the so-called gold version of the game that came on discs would still have, and in some cases for online games, absolutely require extra downloads full of last-minute patches and fixes. But in the case of single-player games, at least, offline games, the day zero patch would still be functionally optional. Because going gold is supposed to mean the game was ready for paying customers to play. Even if it still had some known bugs, they were expected to be minor, and even if the game was expected to have extra content later patched in. But for CD Projekt Red to claim their game, a game having already been repeatedly delayed, a game where their staff are already under heavily criticized crunch conditions, despite the developer themselves decrying that very practice in the industry, speaking out against that practice in the industry, and then turning around and doing it, and then to come out today and say, well, actually, when we said it was gold, it wasn't actually really technically still gold. It's still too broken to release, and we need several more weeks of crunch development conditions to even have it ready for day one players. CD Projekt Red's version of gold for this offline single-player game actually means, as it turns out, is in no way ready for players, and the extra weeks of crunch development conditions they say they require for their day zero patch are needed to make it acceptable for customers. Outside of their weasel words and carefully painted spin text, this is garbage. I'm happy to wait. Don't get me wrong. It gives me more time to run through Watch Dogs Legion, for example. This time of year is always crowded with games, so the delay hardly leaves me with nothing else to play. I'm not sitting here twiddling my thumbs, oh damn, I wish I had Cyberpunk. And I'm happy to wait if it means the game is as good as it possibly can be. I just don't like the way they've messaged all of this. It's the latest in an increasingly long list of hypocrisy and bullcrap from CD Projekt Red. Like how they decry crunch culture only to use it themselves, or how they stomp their feet performatively, shouting down microtransactions in games, proudly screaming that their game won't have microtransactions, only to actually come out and tell people that the online version of Cyberpunk will in fact be filled with microtransactions. The industry at large has turned meaningful terms like alpha and beta and even early access into completely meaningless terms outside of a marketing tool. And now, CD Projekt Red has done the same for going gold. That term's meaningless from here on in. Now the term is just a fresh way to get a few days worth of hype-riddled headlines. Oh, so-and-so game has gone gold! Hooray! Woo! Retweet! It's meaningless now, utterly and completely meaningless as a term by which to align expectations of a game actually being ready to be sold at the expected release date. And I, for one, get pissy about that kind of thing. I'm sure there'll be the usual crowd of fan-slave apologists making excuses, shifting goalposts, trying desperately to redefine words as carefully as possible so it all makes sense for them and they can justify it to themselves and everyone else around them, and screaming hateful garbage at anyone who dares criticize CDPR for anything, ever. But for me, that's all water off a duck's arsehole. That's not the way that phrase goes, is it? I'm just annoyed that a developer with so much goodwill behind it, one of very few developers who do have an almost universal readiness for forgiveness from the player base, a benefit of the doubt that companies like Sony and EA and Bethesda and all of those people have long since worn away to a scabby, worthless stump. They have no benefit of the doubt left at all. They've used it all up. They've burned it away. They've betrayed us too many times. I'm annoyed that CD Projekt Red seems to be taking advantage of that, taking it for granted, taking that padding of forgiveness in people for granted while doing this double talk, backstabby, PR spin bullcrap. I want CD Projekt Red to, if you will, stay golden. Stay pro-consumer, stay aligned with the stance they've taken as the pro-consumer developers. Keep their hard-earned goodwill alive, but this crap makes it real hard to maintain that in my mind and my heart and my soul. Right then, I've said my piece. I'm sure you're already saying your piece in the comments. I do appreciate that. If you do, please just keep it remotely respectable and don't call me names just because I might have a different opinion than you. That's all fine. It's part of being human. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling up above there. I do really appreciate your kind and generous and above and beyond support. Now I'm going to play some more Legion. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and we'll catch you next time.
Here, do you want to scratch our back? We could use more people in DedSec.